Do you mind telling everyone a little bit about yourself and your business?
Michael Wolk, my business has to do with doing real estate consulting. So we are launching a number of Airbnb arbitrage properties, as well as doing some other business consulting, on the side. And so, we reached out and looked at different ways to expand our funding profile for furniture or other goods that could be used there to increase the marketability of some of those properties.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where when we initially looked at lines of credit, we realized that that was not necessary to have cash for the majority of the expenses outside of, kind of first month, last month rent. So when we identified that there were alternative methods, then we started looking at companies. And that's when we came across, the team here. And that's where, when we worked together, we really did find out that by working together, we were able to secure, $168,000 in unsecured credit with 0% for at least the next 12 months.
Oh, love it. If you don't mind me asking, where else did you look before us?
So I'm pulling up the list now. Prime Cap, Corporate, Fund and Grow, and then there were two others.
Okay.
Check one last area.
I'm curious, did you look like traditional financing as well, like going to your bank?
Yeah, I talked to the bank as well. So I talked to a few different banks, and just they basically said the same thing. Like especially like Wells Fargo and Chase were like, just open a credit card with us. They're like, we can get you. And some of the ones on, when I went to, because my Wells Fargo account had an issue because I'd done it online. So like they wanted to make sure I was real.
Okay.
And so I had to go in and they had to do some things. And he's like, yeah, I could probably get you, I think he was saying 25 to 50, which is more than I got when I went through the company, when I went through your team. But I also know that folks saying that stuff aren't looking at your credit profile, right? They're not looking at everything when they say that. So,
got it.
So I also, he may be accurate, he may not be. But I also do know that sometimes those individuals, because Wells Fargo was not done through an affiliate, so it was not done through one of your team members. So it is possible that he could have done better than just doing the online application.
I see. Yeah, I see that on here, 11K. Okay. The reason why I ask is because a lot of people come in and they're just like, I can just go to a bunch of different banks and get the same thing, right? Is there a reason why you decided to go down the route of like someone that has relationships?
I mean, what it seemed like is your relationships, and correct me if I'm wrong, were really with US Bank and Chase. Was that correct? As far as when I spoke to a person that you referred.
US Bank, Chase, Bank of America should have been as well. No? Interesting.
No, it's just US Bank and Chase.
Okay.
Bank of America actually had declined me. I had to call them and have like an hour conversation on my own to get them to do it. And then they gave me a small amount, and it was really only because I have like a 20-year history with them. But yeah, US Bank and Chase, and Chase did give positive numbers, like both US Bank and Chase, with a 50,000 initial and I think 11,000 follow up for Chase, or 10,000 follow up.
10,000. Yep.
And then US Bank with a 25 and a 19, I think.
Yep.
Those I think were positive. I've heard other numbers from friends who've used other services, and do not have the finances that I have, and they were looking at with Chase. They were looking at 75 or 100. That's what they got in their credit card. But I also know that sometimes these things sometimes it's all goofy. So I don't.
So.
Well, I mean, I know they weren't lying. Like, I know that the numbers are accurate. Like, they gave me the truth, and I know that their business was new as well. So, but, I think that there's 50 to 75 still from Chase are both like in the same ballpark, and they may not have opened a second one from Chase. You know what I mean? And then, I did have, I think I told you I had some of this already as far as the stabilization period, and what we needed to clean up, as far as the profile goes. So I did have that. A document already that outlined that. Kind of one of the things that I had been told to do was get like a Granger card or a Uline or some other business cards to establish a business credit history first, and to season that for 3 to 6 months. So that was some of the feedback before working with your team.
Got it.
Get a DUNS account, build out credit history of some regard as a business, and do that kind of stuff. So, part of the reason why I was looking at working with a company was to shortcut that, right? And so, obviously that's what we were able to do here.
So Tell me, from the funding process of your first Zoom call to getting cards, like what was a nice surprise and what construct, if any, and what, if any,
No,
and
I was
what,
laughing like there are no nice surprises. I wasn't saying it like that.
yeah, but if, what
We're
was
very
any nice?
cynical in interpreting my laughter. Um, I just thought your wording was interesting. What was a nice surprise? You
Yeah,
know?
what was a nice surprise and any
Um,
constructive feedback? So literally after my Zoom call, all the way till you got the credit cards in hand, any like, oh wow, that was nice, and then but also like, hey, this is I would have changed this. Constructive
I
feedback.
enjoyed the conversation with Cayman. I thought he was really approachable and knowledgeable.
Yeah.
We had a good call.
Did he give you like how was his coaching and his consultation? Like, was it
Yeah, I
more?
thought his feedback was just useful. We talked a little bit through business, and like, he was more just really positive about kind of what he had to say about you and the team. And I think from what I'm tracking, you guys started as a marketing business originally, right? And
Right,
then you moved into this space with financing. And so,
right.
you know, spoke very highly about it and coming over to you from some other sales teams and financing teams and learning this. And so just being really excited to understand how to put together a team and grow it, leverage virtual assistants and kind of work together in that space. I think that was, positive for me as a fellow business owner to know that he's kind of involved with it there and knows the intricacies and is, as a fan, right? Like that's positive,
Yeah,
but also knowledgeable. Like he's not just, it's not, he didn't drink the Kool-Aid, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
he,
yeah,
he's not a true believer where everything Drexel does is amazing. Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah.
Right. Like at a certain point, you're like, maybe he's blinded. He had very positive things to say. And then he gave very specific feedback and talked about the process, and so I know that he's actually, I think, really supposed to more be kind of a glad handing person, a step that says, hey, welcome. You made it through your first part where you had to get your credit good enough. And now we're here. So I'm the guy you're going to talk to on the phone and see, because the other people you're going to deal with are virtual assistants. So I'm going to give you a person in America that's a face, that's not Drexel,
Yep.
that's going to handle this phase, even though you're really going to be dealing with my virtual assistants, right? Like, and I'm not critiquing it. Like this is good, and this is good delegation for you guys and cost savings. Like
Okay.
it makes sense.
Now that you have the funding, like what's the biggest challenge for your short-term rental business that you're tackling?
So for me right now, the challenge is doing repetitive but necessary tasks. This is why I'm asking the VA question, right?
Okay.
Because so, I approached you guys to get funding to be able to pivot outside of personal finances because I had cash to be able to use for first and last month rent, right? But I didn't have scaling capital to purchase furniture, right? Like to be
Mm,
able to consistently buy ten to $50,000 of furniture to get these places furnished rapidly. But then pivoting kind of into this soccer thing, which was literally going to implode this summer if I didn't kind of like step in. I mean,
yeah.
was calling him and his employees were calling him because he wasn't paying payroll. Like he was doing nothing, he was broke. Yeah, I mean, and like cash reserves are critical,
They're king.
and he
Yeah.
just didn't have good financial aptitude. Like
I see.
he's a great, he has managed to muscle his way through 20 years of business ownership, but like borrowing against his future at different times, like he's gotten into this cycle, right? So he had taken out some capital loan, some uh, what is it called? Not capital loans, but like
Working
he took a
capital?
couple loans out. Say again?
Working capital loans or
Yeah, I think working capital loans. This
are they the
spring.
ones that hit them like daily or month or weekly or something
Yes,
like that?
yes,
Dude, he's on MCAs. Those are merchant cash advances.
yes. That's what it is. Crazy costs, right?
Dude, he
Like
needs to get the out of those.
yeah, so like at this point he's already paid like they charge you lump sum up front, like you're not paying interest, it's already incorporated. So once you've taken it out, it doesn't matter if you pay it off fast. It's already incorporated. You owe them the money. So he did like $120,000 of that in the spring. And so it was eating his cash flow. Right. So he's broke. And so and he was borrowing because he was just being dumb, right? Like because he wasn't managing his budget right, he was being dumb. Um, And he was borrowing against his future, because in soccer and other things like this, right, you're selling future training, and then you have the money, but then you need to pay the trainers. So we're still really several months behind, right? Because we're still selling, but I actually hired a marketing firm. We're getting in there. We're cleaning out the sales funnel. We're cleaning out customer service. This is why we need VAs, right? So that's where my focus has been. So the challenge is actually that, like, I'm mentally focused there. I am doing some work with the Army, right? Like, I still got to have a couple brain cells dedicated to that. And so then it's like looking on Zillow every day and reaching out to some of these landlords and having some of these conversations, which is very monotonous. Is just hard to stay focused on and do. And so it's getting a VA to handle some of the stuff with soccer that's repetitive, like going through some of these tasks, and it's actually and then doing some of the Zillow tasks like that. That's my next step. Is actually not what I thought it was going to be. It's not furniture or other stuff. It's actually hiring either an executive assistant or a virtual assistant, to do those specific tasks, or to like manage my stuff, like putting together a team, like an EA, and then a couple of either sales reps or customer service reps or something like that,
My goodness.
So I know that's not at all what you would have expected 3 months ago in our conversation, to say that that's what my next thing is, but
No, I mean, it makes sense. You need a property first to furnish.
Yeah.
Right. You need to arbitrage a property. You need a property first.
Well, that's why it was the furniture, but now it's actually the virtual assistant, right? Like, it's this interesting pivot.
Right.
That it's actually the virtual assistant is the next obstacle.
And the speaking specifically for, so I guess I guess the soccer business is your priority right now, but do you want to be doing?
So, and I talked to my business coach for the Airbnb stuff, and he's like, it's not the end of the world, because what you'll do, he's like, well, at this point we've kind of missed, the high season for a lot of these things, but it's good because if we wait until like January, February, we'll be able to start to lock in leases for the spring and then kill it in the summer. So he's like, it's not the end of the world. This is fine. Like, just ride the next wave, but, so it's not the end of the world. It just changes the sequencing, but the soccer thing was going to go under. It would have imploded. So instead doing that, pivoting that, and then negotiating probably a 49-51% equity deal. So zero capital in, really sweat equity, saving to that and knowledge, running his business. But he generated $850K last year. So he should have, and I've run and I've looked at it. He just mismanaged it. He paid people $50 an hour that shouldn't be there, that weren't good. So we fired them, right? Like, these are, pro soccer players that he was having coach. And you're thinking $50 an hour, but they sucked as coaches, right? Like, people don't really care that they're a pro soccer player if they're also a bad coach one-on-one or small group. And if they're not showing up consistently, right? They get rid of the dude, and so we started to fire some of these people and do a better job training some of the younger coaches. And so now we're paying, $20 to $25 an hour for some of these really phenomenal coaches who, if they're doing one-on-one coaching outside on their own, they're going to make $80 an hour, but they're going to get inconsistent bookings, right? So here we give them a consistent paycheck. That's why they trade off and work with us, and we've trained them up. Like, we're growing them as coaches, but then the kids love it because they get to go to a consistent place. It's indoor. It's all the, we'll soon have kids playing soccer or cricket. Right? I'm just messing with you.
No, I know.
It's okay. My wife's Mexican. That's why I make the soccer joke. Right?
No, you got it, man. You got the pass. Don't worry.